Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here today with my review of the third episode of Season 2 of Made in Abyss, which aired last night on Toonami at 12:30 in the morning. Now, I'm going to talk about things I liked about the episode, some things I didn't like about this episode, and then tie it up with a big old bow right at the end. Now, some of the things I liked about this episode, I kind of like the delving into the lore here, more of the realm, because in the first season we heard of hollows and we saw them as, well, what we saw Midi as basically mindless creatures that just kind of roam around, crawl around and stuff. But in this season they seem more sentient, intelligent, and at this point they also imply that hollows to a degree can choose the form they end up in, and they end up in the form of their truest desires, which is a little interesting lore bit they add here. And also like the realm of Ilbu, the village they're in, where you have this almost like Sharia law system of, oh, if someone steals or damages some value of some good that someone has, the gods or the village itself basically repays it by taking something valuable away from the person who committed the crime. And you see that here with MAAA, which I didn't even know. I had to look up the name of this. That's the pink guy whose little butt you're looking at here. That's the guy who hurt Melody by squishing its insides. And since it was something very valuable to Riko, he had to repay by losing a bunch of personal things, a lot of his money, and basically a lot of his own flesh, ultimately. And it's implied, well, I got spoiled to the fact that he still technically kind of lives. Well, not kind of technically, he actually is alive because you see him later, apparently. But outside of that, I thought that was an interesting system, like an interesting little realm within the Abyss, and almost separate from the Abyss in this way because the force field doesn't exist there, where you have this own little city here. And I thought that was really interesting. Another thing I liked was interesting was the little bit of foreshadowing about a character we're going to see a lot of, and that is they said her name outright, Faputa, who is the queen of, no, not queen, the princess of the Hollows, and they directly kind of show you that Faputa was the little native girl that helped Velko and the other gang that you saw at the very, very first episode of the season. So she at least lives, and you have Velko at the end of the episode say, oh, we didn't survive this. So the question is, were they just outright killed, or were they turned into hollows? Because I kind of a theory going on that the hollows you see early in this episode that don't go up the staircase into Ilbu are the remnants or the hollows of the people who journeyed down to the abyss well before even the founding of Earth, and they just kind of stayed there since then. But outside of that, that was an interesting reveal that Faputa, who we're going to see more of, and we already know some of the things Faputa did, and especially the whole taking the hair and shoving up the ass of a dead animal thing. Asses of animals are a very weird theme this season. You have Faputa shoving Riko's hair and Nanachi's fur up the butthole of an animal she killed and sewing it up. And you also have the guts, the lower intestines of Melody, or I forgot the name, Melody, something like that, escaping the rear and having, I believe it was Nanachi, might have been Reg, having to push the guts back in because of the pink guy Ma right here, who's, again, your butt you can see very clearly in this image I'm showing here. And I thought that was an interesting realm. And although this episode was light on adventure and was light on really moving the plot forward, it's interesting because you really have this amazing setting, the Abyss, where it's created in such a way where so much can happen and it can be painted so thoroughly. And I like right now how the anime, and I presume the manga at this point is too, stopping to really just smell the roses and to really fully flesh out this painting of this really amazing, really unique setting in the Abyss. And that's something I feel like is the right direction to go here, especially since I have my friend, I said, who's well ahead the manga of where we are here, has said that they actually haven't announced when they're going to finish it yet. So wherever they're in the manga, they apparently, I guess, have not found Liza yet. So I guess she's the One Piece now. But I digress. Again, a good episode. If I had to say there's anything bad about this episode, it's again the fact that maybe it was a little slow on pushing plot forward. And we had another scene where Riko has explosive diarrhea. and that actually is somewhat plot important. At least with the first episode of the season, it was more just like a gag and didn't really matter for anything. Outside of Nanachi kind of forcing Bondru to look at it through his own eyes. But outside of that, and here you have it being plot important because it leads to, indirectly leads to Reg being separated from Nanachi, where, as you see, at least in the promo for the fourth episode, so this is not a spoiler, he kind of gets kidnapped by Fukuda. And it's kind of implied already for what little we see of him, Papuda, how he wasn't marked, how Riko notably has the symbol on the currency marked over her body and a slash through Nanachi's face, but Reg ends up untouched. That although Papuda doesn't value the other two, she has some fixation already on Reg. And we already saw another scene in this episode where you have like tentacles kind of get a little close to Reg's personal area. They already play around with his belly button, and someone already showed me a screenshot of, apparently from the next episode, where Papuda also licks Reg's belly button. And I've been told again by my friend that Papuda is very wacky and crazy and insane, so I think we're going to be in for a hell of a ride the next episode or two in terms of weird stuff we get to see. And I'm looking forward to it. And again, another thing I noted was they talked about like the currency system, because it's like, well, human children are very valuable down here. You can literally sell some of your own flesh and probably get what you want here, Riko. And she's like, well, I don't want to do that. And also because of the whole repayment thing with Ma, she indirectly gets money. And she's like, well, what if I lose it? And then Majikaju, which is the dragon, really the vessel, because that's not an actual hollow, said the money follows you even if you don't physically have the coin value of it. So basically, Ilbu basically invented cryptocurrency. They basically just said their currency's on the blockchain. Oh, it follows you even if you don't physically have it, you know? And I hate that that was the one thing I thought of the last 7-8 minutes of this episode. Like, I mean, what else happens this part of the last part of the episode? Papuda lands, everyone's interested in this, and then, like, Riko goes to the bathroom. Again. So again, this is just another interesting episode. Hey, Made in Abyss is an adventure, even if they go nowhere like they do in this episode, and that's what's fun about it. If I had to rate this episode, I would give it an 8 out of 10. What do you guys think? Leave your comments, leave your pins down below. I am the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.